Okay, Mark, we are back rolling live here at the FPA NorCal Conference for our 2 days of coverage for goRIA, fueled, of course, by InvestmentNews. And we have with us right now Mark Gilbert, who is the founder and CEO of Zocks. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, so we were talking a little bit offline. I've certainly heard of Zocks, as a lot of people have. I've certainly heard of AI, which everyone has.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk to you about this. So one thing I just learned real quick off camera, I think of Zocks, I think of AI note-taking, but there's more than that. So let's start off with the note-taking. But stay tuned on this segment here. We're going to talk about the other stuff that you do. One of them I think is just kind of amazing. So tell us about the note-taking. That's kind of the headline here.
Yeah, so when we started Zocks and launched last year, the main scenario was really around client meetings and note-taking for that. So that's pre-meeting prep. So we'll basically look through all of your systems, get all the data on the household, the family. You can even ask us questions. So you can be like, what sports do their kids play? Who's their attorney? Any of those things. And we'll actually use AI to go out and get those answers for you. And then,
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so we connect in typically with your CRM system, email if you want, and all your previous conversations you've had with these people, and we can store all the context from those. And so if you've never used Zocks before, but you, let's say, hook it up to your CRM system, we'll go in there and get the answers. So if you have, let's say, their tax accountant or their estate attorney in there, or any context on the family, we'll pull all that. And then, once you've had a discussion, even really we find one meeting with a client, that data is very rich. And so then we can start to answer all those. And so we try to give you everything in a prep that's fully customizable by you. So we have some advisors who are like, hey, I want their kids' names or grandchildren's names at the top of that because they want to really remember that and maybe like an opening line. Other people want the financial data. For some people who are now integrating planning systems with us or custodial systems, you could even say like, what are their top holdings? How have those done? Whatever you want. And then ask it questions, right? So like, again, personal questions, like how much of the money is in cash, whatever you want to do, and the AI will go out and get those answers. And if it doesn't know because you don't have the data, it'll just say, I can't answer the question.
All right, this is a good way to start. So one of the reasons why I love doing this, and you may or not know this, so this is like a side gig for me. I actually have a firm,
totally.
Believe it or not, that I run, and I'm a very tech-forward person. I've always loved technology ever since a kid, and I just dig it. So I really thought you guys were like, record my meeting, give me notes. So I'm hearing all kinds of new stuff here. So if I'm hearing this right, so I can plug you in with my email, my CRM, and ask a question, and it's going back through 10, 15, 20 years worth of emails?
Whatever you got in there. Whatever you got in there. Yep.
That's actually really, really cool. I didn't know you guys did that.
Yeah, and so we see people using it in the firm as well, often with the staff, because they want to go, like a client will call, right? And they're like, just trying to remember context. Yeah, so we do all that stuff before the meeting. After the meeting, as you'd imagine, so uniquely for us, I should say during the meeting, like, whether it's in person, virtual, over the phone, we handle all those situations. We don't have a recording at all. So what we do is we listen essentially to the conversation exactly like we're having, we transcribe it in real time and then pull data from that. And we find compliance teams are definitely more happy with that, but even more importantly, clients are more comfortable because you can safely tell them, there's no audio or video recording of this meeting and I fully control the data. And so that just frankly makes them more comfortable. And then, we'll give you all the notes and the things that you would normally put in CRM, like what we think of as the traditional way of doing it. You can click a button and update the profile in your CRM. So often we find that a lot of the fields just aren't filled out or out of date. And we'll take all the data from the conversation and do that. And then even build up, give you a lot of details. So if you do have like paraplanners or associates or people who weren't in the meeting, they can go in and get, all the financial facts. They can see the family tree, life events, all this different information. And we use that as well to build up a profile. So you can go in and actually say, like, hey, what are Chuck's goals and when did they change last? And we'll be like, 18 months ago you met with him and he said that his goals were changing from retirement to a vacation home or something, whatever those are, because you actually see the lineage of all the data. So it's very powerful, pushes the data to CRM, can push it to other systems as well if you want. And that's kind of the meeting assistant for us. And then there's some other cool things too that we've launched recently that help. But the goal ultimately is to really just help you scale, frankly, like just save time. We're now getting to the point where we're seeing definitely increased revenue in business because people are following up in a more personalized way. They're following up quicker. And so they're just frankly converting more clients and retaining AUM better too.
All right, interesting. So you actually touched upon something that I was going to ask you about, which is compliance. So that kind of scares me with AI.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to do this and it's recorded, now that's something I have to be responsible for. And as you well know, nothing is in any way ever a problem right up until the point that it's a problem.
It's a problem. Yep, exactly.
And I'm just thinking about an investment maybe goes bad. There's some arbitration. I'm not going to say most, but maybe most, but certainly a lot of them are frivolous.
Yep.
And they're going to do discovery.
Yep.
And they're like, well, you said this one thing back 15 years ago, and now you're screwed.
Yep.
What's my protection on that?
Yeah, so different firms, frankly, do different approaches or have different policies. We have advanced data retention policies. So you can say, I don't want to hold anything close to a transcript, like once this is processed. You can say, I'm going to keep this for a month, a year, and then have it destroyed. We can hold it for 7 years. We can even integrate, some firms are like integrating with their archiving systems because they want those records, right? I would say at a compliance level, we have found it's extremely helpful for two reasons. Like for anyone who's been through an audit, very often, they want data on every time you've interacted with the client. So you'll have something on the calendar, but you're like, I forgot to put something in CRM for that. Like we have basically all of those things. So you have a bit more context there. And then we've had a number of situations since we've launched where people have come back. Let's say the client is like, we shouldn't have sold that. We didn't agree to it or whatever else. And they can basically just go and say like, we actually did cover that. And it allows you to just sort things out quickly. Right. But again, you fully control the data. So some people treat it like a piece of paper, just like you would coming out of a client meeting. You put what you want into your CRM or planning and then just shred it. Other people are storing it and retaining it for quite a long time. But so it can help a lot.
What are you guiding people for best practices? I would think, because we're thinking about deploying something like this at our shop. And I'm just concerned from the compliance aspect. Yep. So I would think the best practice would be, let the AI take the notes, but the advisor still reads those notes. Yep. I assume edits those notes. Like, no, that's not exactly the context what we were saying. Then and only then, once the advisor signs off on it, does it get stored. Is that generally accepted to be best practice?
Yeah, and I would say that's almost, so everything we do has still what we call advisor in the loop. So we'll give you all the data. You can go ask for more information or explanations to things. We'll show you all the way down to like exactly what you said or they said. You click the button, push it into your CRM system, and with that, you've reviewed it, made it any tweaks you wanted, all of that, and then you're good. And
then it's the
most firms are using that as their books and record.
Got it. That's what I was getting at. Okay. And is there sort of a second derivative case here where the compliance team, in addition to reviewing emails and text and social media posts, are they reviewing these meeting notes as well?
So that does happen for a few broker-dealer firms. We've definitely, I don't think I've seen any RIAs do that. It's extremely rare right now. We do have those integrations if people want them. I think the bigger concern out of the broker-dealers is if there is like clarification or anything from FINRA on what they need to do here, that they have those capabilities, right? That they don't need to like shut it down. So we have all those capabilities there where some people view it as like this could be construed as a written record, like an electronic written record between the two of you. The vast majority of people don't because they're like, this is just for the advisor. Nothing ever went to the client. This is, like it's essentially data to help you do your job. And then you basically pick the things that are most critical for that and go, for suitability and all the things you normally want to have in notes.
Got it. And I assume there's either a built-in workflow or a way to make a workflow where it did the synopsis, but it's not logged anywhere till the advisor's like, yep, that's correct.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And I would say like pretty much everyone runs that. They review it. They can make any tweaks they want. They click a button and choose where to push into CRM.
All right, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what I knew you did. But then you do other stuff too. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so recently we've launched a few other capabilities, and this is really guided by, frankly, just helping advisors and their teams scale. Like this, like the amount of time people are spending in the back office is huge. The meeting, what we call the client meeting lifecycle, is a huge part of that. We now also have released two other things that are really cool, we think. One is the ability to fill out forms for people. So this could be something like an intake forms, like if you're meeting with a potential new client, you'll talk through it all. And if you have general intake forms that you use, you can just basically click the button and it can either go through the conversation or more commonly, it'll actually go through all of your systems and say like, can we fill out this intake form? But you can use it for we also have people use it for like account openings, money movement, change of beneficiaries. If anybody is doing any insurance or annuities, like everyone knows those forms are always a little bit more gnarly. So you can basically just put them in and then just say like, hey, I met with Chuck. Like whatever, we're going to open a term life policy for you. Fill out that form, and people can even do it during the meeting, and it'll be like, oh, you have 20 of the 24 data points you need. And so then I just know, I'm like, okay, we need these 4 other things from you, right? And just ask and go. So that's been a huge help for the transition from the front office to the middle office, if you think about it. Staff's been super bullish on that. And one of the biggest things we see there is not just the time savings for the advisor and their teams, but also the time it takes to get those results back to the client and ultimately typically DocuSigned or wherever that is and all the way through, that takes often like days, if not weeks, because there's some piece missing, some piece of data is out of date, all of those things. And it'll basically go through and tell you right away what's there, what's not. And so you can get something back to the client quickly to sign, which is great. We also recently have released what we call email replies. So the way that works is if clients email you, so like we do attach to your email. Again, we never communicate with, just to make sure everyone knows, we never communicate with your clients directly. We're really there to help you out. So we'll connect with your email. If it's a contact that you have in the CRM system that we have context on, we will try to draft a reply for that. And then the more context we have, so if you can attach your planning system, actually a number of broker dealers and a number of RIAs are taking other data they have and essentially like exposing that to us to use in these things.
Interesting.
We'll draft a reply. And the idea again there being that just saves you time. We see people losing, I don't want to say losing, but spending 1 to 2 hours a day on client emails that are coming in.
Easily,
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we were kind of joking off camera. I was like, that's kind of horrifying to me. Like AI just starts, I'm thinking like Terminator gets out of control. And it's like responding to my clients, that's the dumbest question I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like,
why would you ask that?
Why would you ask that? We've covered this 3 times.
Yeah.
So I assume likewise with the notes, it's going to draft it. I assume it comes to me first to be like, okay, good, and then click and it goes?
Yeah, exactly. So the way it works is it goes to you first,
Yep.
and then you obviously can add everything. And when you click, it actually will go into your and come from your email account. And there's 2 important things about that. One is the replies are going to go back to you. It doesn't like have any kind of weird issues, the exact same as if you sent it. And then for any compliance and supervision you have, that's all respected. But yeah, it's essentially there. We kind of use Zocks as like the AI sidecar that's there to like kind of hang out with you and try to help you out with the things that with anything that it can just basically take off your plate.
I think that's really interesting. So let me see if I can think of an example of this. So someone says, gives me an email saying, can you send me out $5,000?
Yep.
Will it reply back, yes, we will do that? And will it actually, or could it actually execute our money disbursement workflow?
Super interesting question. Yeah. So today what we'll do is we will look at that and be like, do you have 5,000 in cash somewhere, right? Is there a natural spot for it to go be? We're just about to release integrations with planning systems where we can even dynamically rerun a plan. So if it's something bigger, like, hey, my wife and I were looking at houses this weekend. We saw this great house, but it's whatever, 300,000 more than our current house. Like, what would that mean? It'll actually even go as far as to start to do those. The things that we don't do yet is we will give you, an action item to go do it, and we're literally a month away from attaching those action items to the forms and the downstream workflows to drive them. So if you are an RIA and you're using one of the, I'll say, common custodians, that will come very, very quickly because all of those forms we know about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But again, it's all, if I understand this, always it will prep it.
Yep.
And then I still have a human being that'll be like, this makes sense, execute.
Totally. Yeah. And so what we'll do is we'll do anything that we can get ahead of for you because we can use AI. I think people think of it as an assistant. You can almost think of it as like 100 assistants that you don't have to manage because, if we can draft fill out that form, we'll go do that because if you don't want it, it's fine. We just throw it out, right? Like it just doesn't go anywhere. We won't do anything that is like either communicating with the client or that would be like, irreversible in any way, right? So like make a trade, move money, any of those things that would have a record, we're just really giving you the information to do it with.
All right, this is really good. So again, I kind of get double duty out of these podcasts. We're creating content, but I'm like doing my due diligence.
Happy to hook you up, happy to try it out,
Yeah, I think I will do a demo for sure. So, okay, so you have the meeting prep. The part I did not get before this conversation is that you tie in with all these other systems. Yeah. So you're getting information from the custodian, the softwares. So let me ask you this, as far as connectivity, and selfishly, I'll ask about mine. So we're an eMoney, Orion, Salesforce shop, and Schwab and Raymond James.
Yeah.
Raymond James is the one that usually doesn't play well with others in the sandbox sometimes, but I assume those other 4 you're good with?
Yeah, so just going through those. So Salesforce, not a problem. eMoney, we're just about to launch working with them. They have a lot of great APIs that they've exposed.
Yes,
they've had some partners go out recently, and we're already building and essentially have that one done.
Yeah.
Schwab, 2 things. So we're loading in forms there, and then we also are getting access to their kind of core custodial data. And Raymond James is what you thought. A little longer.
You'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. And we find, like I would say, once you've had a conversation or 2 with clients, plus this other data, you can get a lot done. The other thing I would say with Salesforce is like there's a almost infinite amount of integrations with Salesforce. So if you have other systems that can put even summaries of accounts and stuff like that in Salesforce, which is pretty common with those integrations, we can leverage all that data as well. So Salesforce essentially ends up being almost like an integration hub for us for a lot of clients.
Yeah, well, that's exactly how we're using our Salesforce. So, very cool. So, one of the expressions which I believe Bill Gates made popular, but he didn't come up with, and you may know the one I'm talking about, which is people tend to overestimate how much technology is going to impact in the short term, but underestimate what it's going to do in the long term.
100%. Yep.
What's AI going to do for us in the long term in the context of the advisory world?
So in the long term, and I think this will, I agree, it'll both happen quicker than people think it will happen, but all of this isn't going to happen tomorrow, right? The one thing I would say with AI, like I was at Microsoft for a long time in my career, building a lot of software, and I would say when we went from what I'll call traditional on-premise software to the cloud, things sped up. AI is like another huge leap forward on speed, so things are moving very quickly. What's going to happen, my belief is this: you're going to have an AI assistant, or a set of assistants actually, because even underneath the hood, we have a whole bunch of agents working for you. That is going to give you the power of, even in the short, medium term, what a 3-person firm could do with 1 person, not far after that, 5 and then 10 people firms can do with 1 person, or 2 or 3 can start to do what a 30-person firm will do. And what's happening with that is, if you think of the continuum between not even the mass affluent, but even earlier into like a robo-advisor, all the way up to very high net worth, like just full, almost, family office situations, you're going to see more and more of those what I will call high-end services start to be offered more and more by, like everyone can kind of start to work down a notch, if you will, offering more services to their client base that often were only available to the frankly high end. And with that, you're also going to be able to open up your book more, because you're actually going to be able to afford to provide financial planning and advice to someone who maybe has a little less net worth, but you believe is growing, right? So you, I'm sure, do this in your business today, but you have to be very selective about who you do that with and why. And the reason I say all this is that you're essentially going to have this like fleet of AI assistants that can do things for you, so you can start to offer these services, frankly, at a much lower time cost to you and overall cost to you. And so my strong guess is that you're going to see your basically your book of business expand. Your staff does not have to expand as much with that, so you can essentially grow that at a much quicker clip than you currently would. And the services you're going to be offering 3 and 5 years from now are actually going to be a broader set than you offer today.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great place to put a pin in for today.
Yeah.
This is super exciting.
Awesome.
And it went into a lot more than I even thought it was going to. So that was really great. So Mark Gilbert, thanks a lot for taking some time today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Chuck. Great to meet you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of NorCal.
Absolutely. To be continued.
Thanks.
Okay. So we have one more to go for today here at FPA NorCal. So stay tuned. We'll be back in another 45 minutes with some more content. Mark, thanks again. That was fantastic.